Hey guys, and welcome to another Odyssey video. Over the last week I've had people messaging me asking where I place my skill points, what type of mods that I use, and the loadout that I use going into the Nexus and Paradox Wave raids. This video is just going to briefly outline it. It's not an in-depth guide, but this is just going to briefly show you where I place my skill points, what mods I put into my gear, and the loadout that I choose for those raids as well. So if we just have a quick look where I place my skill points, normally the innates that I choose first are defense, then dominance, health, and then restoration. I'll explain why I choose dominance and restoration later on in the video. After I've chosen all my innates first, these are the innates that are at the bottom of the tree that we used to have before the bonus innates came in. After I've chosen them, I normally go to dominance. So I've maxed out all my bonus dominance innates through all the weapon trees. I haven't gone into health or restoration because, as you can see, I don't have a lot. I don't have enough skill points yet, but I'm hoping to progress with that in the future. Right, now I've just briefly shown you where I put all my skill points. Let's take a look at the mods that I use in my gear. So if we just take a look at the red sockets, I put dominance and might. Again, I'm going to explain why dominance is important when I talk about the powers that I use in my loadout. I use might because the more might you have, the more you're going to do damage with your powers, basically. Let me just say, I'm not a damaging tank whatsoever. I don't believe in that. I'm a tank. I'm there to get aggro, and I'm there to maintain the group's survivability. Any damage I do is a bonus. So whether I come at the bottom of the table or in the middle, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm there for a purpose, and that's the tank. Simple. In the blue sockets, I put dominance and health for more survivability, and in the yellow sockets I put dominance and power. You're going to need a decent amount of power in Nexus and the Paradox Wave, because the amount of times you're going to rotate through your shield is going to drain your bar very quickly, and with the gear scaling compared to, say, somebody that's in T4, you're going to be a controller in T4, you're going to be using a hell of a lot more power, and it's going to take you a lot longer to get it. So maintaining your power is very, very important. What other mods? Yes, the white mods. In my weapon I use the absorption adapter. In the neck I use fortified blocking, and in the hands I use the regenerative shielding. This normally procs when you use reflect. I normally get a decent heal off it, not a big one, but enough to survive, basically. So the last few parts of my gear are the rings. So in here I put dominance and health 5, again for survivability, and for the affinity socket I've got restoration. I'm going to explain again why restoration and dominance are important for the powers that I use in my bar. And my belt is from one of the ops. It's a item level 87-1. I got the good one, which was kind of lucky. It's the 3 wild card and a consumable. So that's basically my mods and the gear that I use on my bar. I enjoy using martial arts. I like the melee martial arts, and I like the shuriken range attack, and it's helps me be a lot more flexible when I'm tanking. So yeah, that's basically right. We've covered where I put my skill points and the type of gear I've got and what mods that I use. Let's have a look at the stats after them. These stats will vary, however, that's dependent on what type of mods that you use in your gear and where you place your skill points. But for me, this is with 45 gear. I've got nearly 7k health, I've got 6100 defense, got 1360 restoration and 1378 dominance, and my combat rating is 97. So bear in mind your combat rating might be 96 because I've got a raid weapon, and I've also got, if we have a quick look at this, I've also got a tier 5.02 belt or something. It dropped off the emboss in Nexus, but it's slightly better than a tier 5 belt. So yeah, so the combat rating might be different, but that is a basic outline of the stats you may have once you've completed your tier 5 anyway, so you can take whatever you can from that. So we've covered where I put my skill points, what type of gear I've got, what mods I use, and the stats that you should roughly get after you've completed your tier 5 gear. So now it's time to look at the powers that I use on my loadout bar. This isn't going to be in depth, as I said earlier. It's just going to be basically showing you what powers I got and why I use them. So if we just go and look at the iconic powers, I normally go with powerful resistance, which gives you 100 extra health. I normally go with nano weave armor, which gives you 50 defense and 100 toughness for PvP, and I go with intimidating gaze, which gives you some dominance. I also go with hard light shield for many reasons. I'll explain that when I get to my loadout bar, which is now. So my loadout bar consists of inescapable storm, which pulls the aggro towards you and obviously gives you the 90% debuff, 90% buff. So let me just quickly show you what happens. So as I said earlier, I've got 6,000 defense. So when I use a power, it should go up to 11,639. Now, just to be clear, this isn't exactly accurate because of the armor piercing mechanic. Now, the armor piercing mechanic ignores defense. So let's take FOS 2 for example. In FOS 2, the armor piercing is 25. It ignores 25% of your defense. Now, I'm not 100% sure what it's like in the new raids, but I think Cristiano, a fire tank on the official forums and on the US server, part of Squad 11, I think he calculated the armor piercing being at about 40 to 50%. So any attack that you receive is going to ignore 40 or 50% of your defense, which is a lot. Anyway, let's jump back to the loadout. So we've just quickly talked about Inescapable Storm, which pulls everything towards you, gives you that 90% defense. It pulls more than one mob, which is awesome because you can pull 3 or 4 at a time even. So as you should remember earlier, I was talking about restoration and dominance. Each of these powers here use 100% dominance and 100% restoration. Well, to be fair, I'm not too sure about Bitter Winds. I think it only uses 13.5% restoration, so I'll have to do some testing on that. But these powers, Reflect, Winter Ward, and Shatter Restraints and Hard Light Shield, use 100% dominance and 100% restoration. Well, what does this mean? Basically, the more restoration and the more dominance you got, you're going to reflect more damage away from yourself. It's as simple as that. So that's why I've been stacking. Restoration and dominance. It helps prevent a lot of incoming damage. It's really good, and it really helps that the gear now that you get, for example, for a tank, it includes restoration. It really does help in these new raids in terms of survivability. So now you understand what restoration and dominance does. Let me just talk about the mechanics of the powers and why they're useful to me. So Winter Ward breaks you out of any control effects, and it does for any of your teammates, up to 3 teammates. Reflect, an amazing power, the best power I think in ice tanking. It makes you immune to damage for about 12 seconds, and sorry, it makes you immune to damage for 12 seconds and 3 hits. That's it. So if we just jump over to Bitter Winds, Bitter Winds is awesome. What it does, when you use the power, the animation is ice shards spinning around you, but when you jump up into the air, any mob that's within close proximity will fly up in the air with you and fall on the ground. So that gives you at least a decent amount of control over the mobs on the floor, so the DPS can get them down very quickly, so that they ain't attacking the group then, and you're in full control of them. So let's go back to the loadout. Shatter Restraint mitigates damage like Bitter Winds, Winter Ward, and what it does when you use Shatter Restraints, any mob that's around you, it pushes them back briefly, so this gives you a little breather for any incoming damage, and it obviously stops them focusing on any of the group that's with you at the time during the raid. Hard Light Shield, the biggest problem with this, it's got an insane cooldown, which I don't like, to be honest with you. It's if the cooldown was a little slower, this would just be an awesome power. Anyway, this also uses 100% dominance and restoration, which is cool. It lasts for about 10 seconds and it mitigates damage really well. So every single power on my bar, apart from in a Scab Storm, mitigates damage, and that's with the type of loadout I've gone. Rotating these powers comes with experience. You'll learn to time your powers really well. You'll learn to kind of anticipate the mechanics you're going to need with particular mobs, whether you want to, you know, lift them up in the air, whether you want to push them away from yourself, and you know, it's a good loadout, and it's been used by many other people. Hard Light Shield is it's still open for debate at the moment. A lot of people don't use it, but I enjoy using it. But interestingly, as of late, a lot of people are using Ice Elemental. Now this is obviously a 50% supercharge. Before the Ice update, this used to be 100%, which was I hated it personally. I couldn't stand it. There was no point. I didn't find any use for it in PvP or PvE. But now in the next raid, for example, if you're solo tanking with all the mobs around you, this is just, it's incredible. The buff it gives you. So if I just use it here, so it gives you, this is the stats that you get 20,000 health, you get 18,000 defense, and it's just, and obviously it gives you a buff in toughness as well. But them stats in terms of survivability is just crazy. It lasts for about 20 seconds, but still, if you've got one of them, you know, oh shit moments, this is the power to use, definitely. And what makes it even better, you can use your own loadout. So I hope this video has helped. I hope it's informative enough to give you at least a grounding for the way ice tanking is used in Nexus, and any questions that you want to ask, or that you would like to know about ice tanking, please put it in the comment section below, and I hope to help you again in the future. Thanks for listening.